بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. From above, my brothers and sisters, I want to remind myself and you that the meaning of being Muslim is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without question, without argument, without reservation or hesitation. To submit joyfully and eagerly. That is the symbol of our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that trust is what earns His pleasure and His help. That is why the iconic symbol of Islam is the sujood, the sajda, a state of total and complete submission and helplessness, a symbol of total unhesitating obedience, a symbol of total trust and faith, something which is haram, which is prohibited for anyone other than Allah. A Muslim is one who submits. That is why there is no such thing as a non-practicing Muslim. The word Muslim is a verb, and that is the topic of my khutbah today. Muslim is a verb. The word Muslim is a verb like the word musalli, one who prays, not one who knows about salah, but doesn't pray. Or the word sa'im, one who fasts, not someone who knows about fasting but doesn't fast. Or the word haji, one who has done or is doing Hajj, not someone who went there to help the Hujjaj or to make a movie about Hajj, or a journalist or a bus driver or something transporting Hujjaj. All of them go to all the places that the Haji goes to, but they are not considered to have performed the Hajj, and they will not be called Haji because they did not fulfill the rituals of Hajj. To be a Muslim, we must practice Islam, and that means to submit our will to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An immediate topic that is before us today is that of women going for Hajj on their own without a mahram. This is not restricted to Hajj, but to women traveling without a mahram. Is this permissible or not permissible? Let me share with you what our scholars have said and leave you to take your own decisions. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to what pleases Him. I remind myself and you that the basic principle in Islam, that whatever Allah commanded directly Jalla Jalaluhu in the Quran or through His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is good for all time, because Allah's knowledge is perfect and is not based on the times. That is what makes the Quran and the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam timeless and relevant across the centuries. I must remind myself and you that to open the door of expediency or modernity or present circumstances or whatever is to open the door for the eventual destruction of Islam. This is nothing new. We have seen it happen in other faiths which also have the same divine origin, but where the leaders decided to change the law which the messengers brought and substituted it with their own understanding and desire. Every time and age will be faced with the same dilemma and challenge. The answer is also the same. Allah knows and I do not know. So I do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told me to do, whether I understand it or not, whether it makes sense to me or not, with my limited knowledge. I do that not because I am obeying blindly, but because I am obeying with knowledge that Allah knows more than I do, that Allah knows the future and I don't, and that to Him is my return. And because I trust Him totally, without reservation, and know in the depths of my soul that whatever He ordered without qualification is good for me. So I obey and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be my witness and to forgive my shortcomings. Let me remind you that we apply this principle in our lives every day with respect to any expert or specialist that we deal with. We obey without question, not blindly, but because we respect his or her superior knowledge and trust their judgment and believe that they have our best interests at heart in suggesting what they did. I ask myself and you, do we have the same trust in Allah? There are two opinions regarding whether a woman is allowed to travel without a mahram. Who is a mahram? A mahram is her husband or a male relative who she is prohibited to marry or prohibited from marrying. First opinion, it is not permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram. This is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi. This is the Hanafi and Hanbali opinion and is based on the following ahadith and others like them. First hadith. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "It is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and the last day to make a journey of 1 day and night unless she is accompanied by a mahram." And we know what the mahram means. And this is a hadith which is agreed upon, muttafaqun alayhi, in Bukhari and Muslim. The second hadith, narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, who reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No man must be alone with a woman except in the presence of her mahram. No woman must travel except in the company of a mahram." A man asked, "Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have been enrolled for such and such an expedition." He was going for some Sariya, and my wife left for Hajj. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Go and perform Hajj with your wife." And this hadith is also in Bukhari and Muslim and agreed upon. Now both are very clear and direct commands. The second one includes the command for a man not to be alone with a non-mahram woman. In another narration, a man asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "What if the woman is pious?" And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the effect, "Even if it is Maryam, the mother of Isa," which means piety to that extent, still you are not permitted to be alone with her unless her mahram is present. I remind myself and you that if we accept one part of the hadith, we cannot reject the other part. If it is not permissible to be alone with a non-mahram woman, then it is not permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram, both of which are commanded in the same hadith. Second opinion, it is permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram. This is the Shafi'i and Maliki opinion, and also the opinion held by most contemporary scholars like Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi, rahmatullahi alayhi, the European Fatwa Council, the Darul Ifta of Egypt, and Sheikh Qaradaghi and the scholars of Al-Azhar. Now obviously these scholars were aware of the existence of the hadith I mentioned above and the opinions of Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi majma'in. These scholars looked at the asbabul wurud, circumstances and possible reasons, the isnad, the chain of narration of the hadith, and the what is called the illah, which is the effective reason. What is the reason for the ruling? They decided that the effective reason why this ruling was given was because in the past it was not safe for women to travel alone, and so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited that. Now, since times have changed, in the opinion of these scholars, this ruling does not apply any longer. I am not going here into what the data tells us today about the safety of women traveling alone, but clearly that has relevance. To support this ruling, there is another narration in Fathul Bari where Imam Ibn al-Hajar al-Asqalani, rahmatullahi alayhi, a great Hanafi scholar, quoted a hadith from Bukhari where Adi bin Hatim at-Ta'i radiyallahu anhu said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, "And if you live a long life, you will surely see a woman traveling from Hira till they make tawaf of the Kaaba, fearing no one except Allah." Imam Ahmad rahmatullahi alayhi quoted this hadith as, "By He in whose hands is my soul, verily Allah will bring this matter, that is Islam, into completion until women travel from Hira and make tawaf of the Kaaba without being accompanied by anyone." The scholars have said that this is a form of bashara, it's a form of good news, a prophecy about the future. May Allah keep us alive to see this. It is certainly not a permission to do it and doesn't negate the clear command in the hadith quoted earlier. Also, if I were to ask the question regarding this hadith, is today that time when Islam has come into completion and dominance, where Pax Islamia, which is the, to use the word Pax Romana, which the Romans used to call the peace of the Roman Empire, if whether this Pax Islama is in place, if I were to ask that question, what would you say? So let me leave you to ask and answer that question. The scholars who permitted a Muslim woman to travel alone without a mahram put the following conditions and said that it is permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram if she can ensure, and this is the key thing, if she can ensure the following. One, she ensures that the paths towards her destination and on her return journey are safe, and she does not meet with any harassment and chaos which can jeopardize her safety. Number two, that she has trustworthy companions throughout the journey. The majority of scholars such as Ata, Said bin Jubair, Ibn Sirin, Hassan al-Basri, rahmatullahi alayhim ajma'in, they have also permitted a woman to travel for obligatory Hajj, Fard Hajj, without a mahram if she is accompanied by trustworthy people. Imam Abul Hasan Ibn al-Batal mentioned in Sharah Bukhari, Imam Malik, Imam al-Awza'i and Imam al-Shafi'i said, a woman who does not have a mahram may travel for her obligatory Hajj with other women in trustworthy company. These scholars based their opinion on a precedent. The Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the mothers of the believers, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, performed Hajj after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away and during the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, in the guardianship of Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu, who was not their mahram. Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu also accompanied some women from his neighbors for Hajj. Key question to ask is the travel of the mothers of the believers from Medina to Mecca in the Khilafah of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, accompanied not just by Uthman bin Affan radiyallahu anhu, but by their whole entourage and military troops and so on, at a time when every inch of the way they traveled through was under the rule of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Is it the same as a woman traveling alone for Hajj today? Let me leave you to answer that question. The famous Maliki scholar, Imam Abu Walid al-Baji al-Andalusi al-Maliki, was a contemporary of Imam Ibn al-Hazm, rahmatullahi alayhi ajma'in. He mentioned in Al-Muntaqa Shara al-Muwatta that a woman's travel without a mahram is contingent upon the number of people accompanying her. It is not permissible for her to travel without a mahram if she is with a small group of people. However, it is permissible for her to travel without a mahram if she is accompanied by a large number of people who can ensure her safety. Now please note that being accompanied does not mean all the people on the plane. It means those she knows and who she is going with for Hajj, who are going to ensure her safety. I have given you both the opinions and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you to do what is most pleasing to Him. The basic principle in deen, my brothers and sisters, is that deen is easy. Ad-deenu yusra. We know the hadith of Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha, who said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam always chose the easier option if it was not something haram. As our scholars have warned us, you are not better than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha when Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhuma and two of his friends came to her to ask about the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after they listened to her, they said, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did so much worship and made so much effort, how much more should we make? And so we will fast every day and we will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all night, every night, and we will never marry. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard about this, he was displeased. He summoned them and he said, I know Allah more than you and I have a relationship with Allah closer than yours. But I fast on some days and I eat on other days. And I worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a part of the night and I sleep in the other part. I stay away from my wives sometimes and I am with them other times. It's a well-known and respected position in fiqh of all the madhahib that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a rukhsa, He's given a permission in a situation, we must express and give her some ease in a situation, we must express our gratitude for it by utilizing it. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted us the rukhsa of shortening our salah and praying qasr during travel. To avail of this benefit is to show our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To say, I don't really need it because my travel is comfortable and so I will pray the full salah, is to show that we do not appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us and to take an extreme position which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like. The salah would still be valid, but to pray qasr would have been more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it conditional upon 2 requirements for men and 3 for women. For men, Hajj is fard if and when the man has the material and financial means and is healthy enough to do it. For women, in addition to these 2, the 3rd requirement is the requirement of a mahram to accompany her. This means that if these conditions are not satisfied, then Hajj is not fard on that man or woman, not compulsory, not obligatory on that person, and they will not be questioned about that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will not be liable before Him Jalla Jalaluhu, inshallah. We may want to go for Hajj, that is our desire. To make the desire subservient and subordinate to the law of Allah is the essence of Islam. That is what Islam is, to submit to the will of Allah. To insist that one must fulfill one's desire is to be rebellious about the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said that if a person has a genuine desire for shahada and makes dua for it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise him with the shuhada even if he dies in his bed. I have the same husn zan about the woman who genuinely, or the man who genuinely desires to go for Hajj but does not do so because the woman does not have a mahram, or the man or woman do not have enough money and so on, and they want to obey Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and they don't go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to take unconditionally whatever His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives us and to leave whatever He orders us to leave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. In Surah Al-Hashr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, take whatever my Nabi gives you and leave whatever he stops you from, and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, and He is severe in punishment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to do that and remain in His amana, in His safety, in His protection. Talking about obeying unconditionally, the Sahaba accompanied Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for Umrah but were stopped at Hudaybiyah. They desired to make Umrah. They desired to make Umrah to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded them to shave their heads and sacrifice their animals and return without doing Umrah, they obeyed. That was the qualifying exam after which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them Makkah 2 years later. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it Fathum Mubin, great victory. What was the victory? They had just signed an unfair, one-sided treaty. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu's questioning and later his regret is an indicator of the mental and spiritual anguish that this test presented for the Sahaba, but they still obeyed. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it a victory. The victory was the fact that they obeyed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even though what they were being stopped from was by itself righteous and virtuous. Yet they didn't insist on doing it but followed the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam is all about obedience. That is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, your iman will not be complete until you make your desires subordinate to the deen which I have brought. Please note, he didn't say haram desires. He said desires. In Ramadan, we give up our halal desires to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is because obedience is superior to whatever we may want to do, even if it is virtuous. In Islam, what is virtuous is not what we think, but to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to do that which pleases Him and save us from that which does not please Him. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب.